Oh my god. But I mean, is anyone surprised? That's right, according to exclusive reporting from CNN, which I obviously have not independently verified, an early US intel assessment suggests that the strikes on Iran did not destroy the nuclear sites. That's right. So what does this actually mean? Well, I spoke to an expert on Middle East politics, and let me tell you, it does not seem great. But also, none of it is surprising. See, what experts on Middle Eastern politics are saying about this is that if Iran had been at least somewhat cooperating with the IAEA before, that's gonna go bye-bye now. For context, the IAEA is the UN nuclear watchdog. It keeps an eye on nuclear sites to make sure that enriched uranium, which is the key ingredient for making an atomic bomb, isn't diverted for weapons. The IAEA does other stuff too, but in the context that I'm speaking about them, that is the most important part. And would you look at that? Yesterday, an Iranian parliament committee approved a general plan to suspend cooperation with the IAEA. And now Iran will likely rush towards weaponization, according to several Middle East experts, including ones I've spoken with. Now, let me explain what all of this actually means. Iran does have a lot of uranium that is enriched to 60%. And that is a bit of a threatening thing for them to own, keeping in mind that several other countries have nukes. But anyway, the reason why that is an unnerving thing for them to have is because you only really need to enrich uranium to between 2 and 4% to use it for civilian purposes like nuclear power. But they've been enriching it to 60%, which is a really key number, because it's the point when the uranium enrichment process turns into a sprint. So enriching uranium from 0 to 60% in these machines, they're called centrifuges, takes a really long time, years. But 60 to 90, yeah, it takes months. And the level of uranium enrichment you need to use it in a nuclear weapon? Yeah, it's 90%. So having a stockpile of 60% enriched uranium is kind of like an if we wanted to, we could. It's the implication. But it's also smoke and mirrors. Because even if Iran has this stockpile of 60% enriched uranium that they could get to 90% quite quickly, they can't just pick that up and throw it at people and call that a nuke. They have to take that enriched uranium and put it into an actual warhead. And that is known as weaponization, weaponizing the enriched uranium. It requires specialized knowledge to know how to build the kind of warhead to put the enriched uranium into, so you can actually turn this stuff into a real weapon that can be launched. But no one has been able to prove that Iran has these warheads or even the capacity, the ability, the technical know-how to make them. And according to the experts on this issue, they've never even really shown an interest in trying to get that information. But here's the thing. According to the sources who leaked these details to CNN about the bombing, the US attack didn't really achieve anywhere near what they claimed, which was, to remind you,
our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
Yeah, so while the White House has come out and said that the information, the leaked information in the CNN report is, quote, flat out wrong, 4 sources told CNN that this attack only set back Iran's nuclear program by, quote, a few months. 2 sources told CNN that Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium was not destroyed, and 1 source, importantly, claimed that the centrifuges, these things that enrich the uranium, are largely, quote, intact. So based on what CNN reported, in a matter of months, Iran could take that 60% stockpile, which 2 sources said has not been destroyed, and have it up to 90% enrichment a few months after that, which again is the level of enrichment required for nukes. But then they still have to get their hands on the knowledge to weaponize it. Again, because there's no evidence that they have that knowledge right now. But they could likely get it. It wouldn't be easy, but they could probably do it. There are 4 candidates for sharing this knowledge, according to an academic I interviewed: China, Russia, North Korea, and Pakistan. We can pretty much immediately rule out China, because they don't tend to overly involve themselves in the politics in the Middle East. You might be surprised to learn, because of headlines like this, that Russia isn't actually a prime candidate either. That's because Russia actually has some not insignificant ties to Israel, because there is a large diaspora there, and according to one expert I spoke with, it's a spot where some Russian billionaires like to launder their money. And Putin needs his oligarchs to stay in power. So Russia isn't super likely to mess all of that up by handing Iran the weaponization knowledge either. Then there's Pakistan and North Korea. Pakistan is a real possibility. Despite a historic, somewhat coziness between the US and Pakistan, this cooperation has not always been warm and fuzzy. And things have been getting cooler over time, the academic I spoke with told me. It was also actually a Pakistani scientist who helped Iran gain the capacity to enrich uranium in the first place. So Pakistan is a potential possibility here. But the most likely option is North Korea. An academic I spoke with told me that North Korea is all about money. And if Iran is motivated enough to pay the price, which is no small thing because Iran doesn't have the most cash flow right now, they could probably get that weaponization information from North Korea. Now, this is the part where I want you to take a deep breath. Because none of the information that I have told you here means that Iran is about to start launching nukes. All of this would likely be an act of deterrence first and foremost. One that they likely feel compelled to now take because of what the US just did. And they aren't alone in feeling that shakiness. A lot of countries around the world are feeling increasingly unsafe and insecure. So the arms rush is likely on across the board. What do you think of all this?